William Holmes McGuffey, teacher, author, publisher, university president, and moral philosopher, one of the founding fathers of American public education, is memorialized with this sculpture at the Ohio Public University where he did his first teaching, Miami University.
Thank you so much. As we gather here this morning in Hamilton, we're about 15 miles down the road from Oxford, the home of the McGuffey Reader. More than 100 million Americans learned to read from that classic collection of literature and poetry. Its publication in 1836 was a landmark in American education. And today, thanks to the vision of President Bush and the bipartisan leadership of Congressman BOEHNER, we celebrate another landmark.
The way it lays out in No Child Left Behind, every year, every subcategory is compared to itself. And if you do not see growth, then you are going to be in school improvement up through the 5th year when they shut you down. After 5 years, they simply say, you are done. You cannot be a school anymore. We are going to be sending your kids elsewhere and this building will close. Every special ed child, the state is telling us, if we feel that every special ed child should take an alternative assessment and not sit in front of the test, still only 1% of those children's scores will be considered passes. Everything else will be considered a failure for the district and the building.
So on one hand, we're supposed to do what's best for students. On the other hand, if more than 1% need an alternative assessment, it's considered a failure for the district. Yeah. So they're saying do what's best for children and take the hit on the failure marks for the test. And all along we've measured the progress of special ed children according to their IEP, so we have been concentrating on growth for special ed students. But it's not the one-size-fits-all test of the standardized tests that were never, I don't think, designed to be for special ed students. So we've always measured a year's growth or measured meeting IEP goals for special ed students, but now they've been thrown in the standardized measure, and they aren't equipped.
They must pull the special ed out and not hold them accountable to the same test that everyone else is taking. They are special ed because they meet the documented disability criteria. And it is madness to expect these students to meet the same criteria everyone else meets. If they pull that out, that would be a big plus in helping make No Child Left Behind. Quite personally, I hate the title No Child Left Behind. It implies that all of us want to leave children behind. No one wants to leave children behind. So right off the bat, the name irritates most of us around here. And so if they change that, that might make me more comfortable. But they definitely need to look at the special ed piece. They need to look at the socioeconomic piece when it applies to one district.
Let's face this fact. 82% of a school's budget, at least in the state of Ohio, 82% of your budget is personnel and insurance. Okay, we're not getting funded correctly by the state of Ohio yet, let alone having the additional requirements made on schools throughout the United States from No Child Left Behind without funding it. They haven't even gotten to 40% of what they promised when they brought together the No Child Left Behind Act. That's a huge shortfall. No matter what they tell you, they may tell you they're giving it to you, but the fact is they're not.
Good evening. I'm Todd Allen Price, coming to you from No Child Left Behind Plaza in Hamilton, Ohio, where a statue of George Bush was dedicated to commemorate an historic day.
The final figures, which will officially dedicate the sculpture plaza. I believe you can just pull back the sheet.
No Child Left Behind Plaza stands right in front of the main entrance to Hamilton High School, where the No Child Left Behind Act that has changed the face of American education was signed by the President on January 23, 2002.
35 years ago, the federal government decided to involve itself in the issue of education. And they got involved for one simple reason, is that we had a huge achievement gap between affluent students and their more disadvantaged peers. And over the last 35 years, we've spent hundreds of billions of dollars trying to close that achievement gap. It was important to close that gap because for our society and our country to be successful and to be prosperous, we needed to make sure that every child in America was getting a good education. But after 35 years, the achievement gap between affluent students and their disadvantaged peers has not closed at all.
No Child Left Behind. It sounds wonderful. After all, who doesn't want all children to succeed? There's nothing more beautiful than the sight of children in our schools displaying skills and talents with which they will enrich the lives of all of us as they grow into adulthood. Nothing speaks to the hope of democracy more than the diversity of experiences that are available for children in our public schools. Here, for example, we see children from public schools in Hamilton participating in a free string orchestra program that is available to children in all of the city schools from 4th grade on.
Yet while some see public schools as places where young people are brought together to share rich experiences like music, others see public education as a wasteland which is leaving the majority of our children without basic skills of reading and writing that they need to function in modern society.